So what I wanted to do is I wanted to just explain the concept of the triptych in like how we're going to be using it, okay? So pretty much what you're going to be doing is you're going to be making 3 separate compositions, okay, within one project. So in a project, you can have as many compositions as you like, okay? So down here, what's in the timeline, this is your composition, okay? Any of your layers that you put together, this is your composition. You can make as many compositions as you'd like, new composition, you can change like the size and everything here. Just click OK. You probably want to give it triptych 2 or something like that. Otherwise, you're going to have like comp 1, comp 2, and you might be sad from that. Okay, so here's another composition. So it's kind of just like, this is all in one project. You can have as many compositions as you want in one project. And what you can do is you can take compositions and put them inside of other compositions. Does that make sense? So like, it's almost like how in Photoshop, you could take a Photoshop document and you can open it in another Photoshop document. Does that make sense? Anyone lost about that? And as we like work with After Effects, it'll become more apparent. Okay, so this is our secondary composition. So pretty much what we're looking at here is we're looking at 4 compositions, okay? You're gonna have a composition, this black box here, that's gonna be 16 by 9, which is like full HD size, like widescreen size. And the sizes for that are 1920 by 1080 or 1080 by 720. You don't have to memorize any of that. We'll be walking through all of that. And then it depends on like how you want to work with your individual triptychs. You can make them whatever size you want. They can be, this is a 4:3 aspect ratio, which is like a square, which is like your old school TVs, right? Everything was a square. So you can make them square, you can make them rectangle, you can actually make them any size you want. You can bring them in here and you can actually use the pen tool or the shape tool to crop them. So for instance, you could like make it into like a swirly friend and then crop it into this shape, which is relatively easy to do. Okay, so what we're looking at here, again, is we're looking at, let's say this is going to be your first composition, this is going to be your second, this is going to be your third, okay? So is that making sense? And what you can do is you can place them, let's just pretend like this, the big space, right? That's just going to be like your canvas. That's the size you have to work with. And then all your individual animations, right? You can decide however you want to display them, okay? You can do them, you can just, if you want people to see them all at the same time, you can do that. If you want people to see them like separately, it's relatively easy to do. So just to show you really quickly, and I'll show you these shortcodes and stuff. So if you wanted to, you could have them all kind of show up at different times, okay? So it just really depends. You can make them larger. That's your space to figure out like how you want the viewer to view it. If you really want them all together, put them all together. If you want them one by one, you can always go in and you can mess with the size really easily. I don't know, maybe they're rotating. Okay, so this is just like really your space to figure out like how you want to display. So just think of the black background composition. That's like your wall, right? Like if you're in a gallery, that's like your wall. You can do whatever you'd like with that space. Does that make sense to everybody? Okay, and then we're gonna get into like how you work with compositions, how you can get compositions into other compositions. It might sound like a little confusing right now, but it's actually a really nice way to organize stuff. All right, I'm going to pause. I believe that means we're recording. Great. Okay, so we're going to click New Project from this screen. Okay, and when we click a new project, it doesn't really give us much, right? It just kind of gives us this like blank screen. I'm gonna just go over what everything is like called one more time. So this is gonna be your timeline. This is like where you're actually gonna be making your compositions, right, with multiple layers. This is gonna be your viewer. This is where you view your compositions. This project panel is gonna be where you can like see all of the stuff that's going to be in your compositions, including your compositions. So this is just like anything that's in the project. And in effects controls, any advanced effects that fall outside of what's underneath the layer will be in effects controls. And then over here, these are our actual effects, okay? So we're gonna get into those just a little bit today. There's like endless amounts of joy and fuckery that you can do with these effects. So we're just gonna kind of get started on that. Okay. So we're also going to just kind of set up the project that you're going to be working in. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to just make a new composition. So if you have this little screen here, you'll hit that. Otherwise, you can go to composition, new composition. So same thing. Okay, and then we have a lot of options here. So the first thing that we want to look at is we want this video to be quite large. We want it to just be 1920 by 1080. Does anyone not have 1920 by 1080 on this? Okay, so that's one of the, as you can see, the 16:9 aspect ratios. There's other 16:9 aspect ratios. So you could do 720. So 720 by 1280 is another one. That's just smaller. I think it's better to just go bigger when you're working because it's way easier to scale down than it is up, right? Because then you're going to run into a pixelation problem. So just make sure that this is at 1920 by 1080, which it should be. And down here, we have the duration. This is set at 30 seconds right now. We can always change this, but let's go ahead and let's change this to let's just change it to like 2 minutes, 30 seconds. Each of your vignettes will be under 1 minute. So you might want to just change it to like 3 minutes, but just to give yourself a little more time and a little more space to work, we can always edit this later. Just give yourself like a little more time there. And I know this is really tiny. Is anybody having a hard time seeing this? Okay, so once you've done those things, you could change your background color, but it won't render out. This is just for your experience. So if you change the background color here, it won't actually reflect in what you export, just FYI. I did that one time and I was very sad. Okay, so then go ahead and just click OK. And you know what? We should have named this composition. That's the one thing I forgot. If we go into project up here, here's our composition. I believe if you just double click in here, no. If you just go into composition settings, you can rename it. So what I did was I just did control click, composition settings. Oh, where's that? Oh, does it say rename? Yes, okay, rename is the easier way to do it. I saw all that like blurred out stuff and I didn't even go that far. So rename, maybe just name this like, whatever makes sense to you. This is gonna be the holder, right? We're actually not gonna even do anything in here. This is just gonna be that holder for your 3 animations. So you can just name this like canvas or holder, whatever makes sense to you. Okay, so now we have this one composition. We're actually not even gonna do anything to it. It's just there when we're ready to use it, okay? Then we're gonna go up and we're gonna make 3 more compositions, okay? And here's where you kind of have to decide like, what size do you want your compositions to be? You can always redo these later, but for mine, I think I want them to be more square. So I'm gonna go to composition and I'm gonna do new composition. I'm going to name it, let's say, sequence, I'm really bad at spelling. Sequence 1 or something like that. And then we're gonna change the size. So you just hit this drop down and We can always mask it. There's a ton of things that we can do. You can even just make it at 1920 by 1080 and just like resize it. So there's many ways to do this, but if you did want to do it in like absolutely in a square, you might want to scroll up and click one of these like NTSC DVs, and it'll give you some more square aspect ratios. But for now, I might just actually pick a little bit smaller one. I'm going to do the 720 by 1080. Okay? Is anybody having trouble finding the 720 by 1080? You can also just click in here and type it in if you can't find the preset. Okay? Can you see in the back? Are you good? Yeah. Okay. Not to put you on the spot or anything. Okay. And I'm just going to keep this one at like 3 minutes too, because I know I'm going to be using it. You're going to be using the space later. Again, your individual compositions don't have to be over a minute, but I just like to have a lot of space to work. So just click OK, and then you're going to do this 2 more times. So composition, new composition, let's call this sequence 2 or whatever, 2, whatever you want to name it that makes sense. And then 3. I spelled some, I used the number on some, it's all good. Okay, so as you can see, all of your compositions are now in the project panel. So I just want to do one thing before we move on. Go ahead and draw in any of your sequences, sequence 1, sequence 2, sequence 3. I'm going to do mine in sequence 3. Just grab the shape tool, whatever shape you want, and just draw something, anything. Okay, so what I'm going to do now that I just have something in one of the sequences, let me get my face out of the way. What I'm going to do now is I'm going to go back to my main one, the canvas one. And from up here, I don't remember where I drew that. Okay, sequence 3. So from up here, what I'm going to grab is I'm going to grab sequence 3, and I'm going to go ahead and put it in this canvas. Yes, absolutely. So I just drew something in any of the sequences, and then I went back to my main one where we're going to end up putting everything. And from the project, which is like shows everything in your project, I'm going to grab the sequence that I drew something in, and I'm just going to drag it to the timeline of my main one. I named mine canvas. Okay, so now what you'll see is you have a composition inside of a composition. Does that make sense to everyone? So whatever's happening in this composition, it's animating, it's doing things, you can bring it over to any other composition. Does that make sense? So that's pretty much how we're going to be like, you're going to be building and then bringing it in, building and then bringing it in. So that's how you're going to make your triptych. Does that generally make sense to everybody? If you're a little lost, it's okay. We're going to keep going over this, and like this will be how we turn in the final. So if you don't remember, that's okay. I just wanted to sort of give you an introduction to how that works. Okay, I'm just going to delete this, and I'm going to delete this friend here. Okay, so now we're going to get into working with type. So everyone should have selected a couple typefaces. You really don't even need to use those typefaces right now. I'm just going to show you some of the things that you can do with like the presets on After Effects. So I'm going to put my face over here. Is this good for y'all, looking at me twice? Is this like a good experience? I just do that for the video so that it's not just a weird person talking. It's this person with this like angel-esque aura around them. Okay, sorry, I divulge. So go ahead and just work in any one of the sequences, not the like main one, any one of your sequences, okay? And the first thing that we're going to do is we're going to grab the type tool. Okay, so the type tool is right up here. we're gonna grab the type tool, and you can do a couple things with it. You can just click and type, or you can actually make a text box with it, okay? I usually like the, yes?
Sorry, how did you open effects controls? I blinked and missed it at the beginning.
Oh, no problem. So it's just this panel over here. If yours is really small, it's probably going to give you an arrow like this.
Okay.
So that's everything that's in this this box. So here's the project. Here's the effects control. If you can make any of these bigger by just like hovering. So if you open it up, you should be able to see both things. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I just won't have an arrow no matter the size.
Oh, okay. One thing you might want to do is see your workspaces up here. Just click default again, and that should solve your problem. Did that work?
No.
Here, let me see. Okay, so like I said before, there's two ways of using it. You can just go ahead and click. Just click and type. Or you can actually make a text box, okay? The difference between that happens when you work with these is that, for instance, when you switch back to arrow and you make things bigger, you have to hold down shift. There's not too much of a difference, but one will allow you to like type more, and one will allow you to like edit more. But I don't think it's something we really need to be super concerned about. I'm just letting you know you could use that tool in two different ways. Okay, so what I want us to do now is I would like you to grab your type tool and just go ahead and, paste in a part of one of, so if you came up with roughly some ideas of what you want to say, maybe just put the first part in one of these. So I'm just gonna, nope, I had a James Baldwin quote, and then I messed it up. Let me find that. Okay, so go ahead and just paste in maybe the first part of what you are working with in terms of the type. Is there a way to make sure things are centered? Yes. I will show you that in 1 second. But for right now, we're just going to kind of keep going. Once we get there, I'll show you how to do that. Okay, so pretty much all you need to do is just kind of get your quote on the page. And then, I don't know if I showed y'all how to do this, but you can control like what size your screen is here. I like to set it to fit. Okay, and then since we're working with the type tool, we're gonna have all of these type options over here. Okay, let me minimize this. So I already chose my font, ES9, which I got from the that doc that I shared with y'all. I have a couple options, extra bold, et cetera, et cetera. And then here's gonna be your, I really wish I could zoom in on this, y'all. Actually, okay, so here's what I'm gonna do. I'm gonna make this tab bigger. Just so you can see. Okay, does that make it bigger at all? Not really. Never mind. Okay, so this first option here, this is gonna be your font size. This next one here is gonna be your line height, the spacing between the different lines. And then this is going to be the letter spacing, the spacing between the individual letters. Is anyone in VisCom here?
Used to be.
Yeah, so like normally you would say things like kerning and leading, but in web code you say line height and letter spacing. So that's just why I'm using that language instead of fancy design language. Okay, so you may want to adjust your typeface a bit. So see how this one is like it's really close together. I'm just going to put a little bit of letter spacing in there. All right, just to make it a little more legible. Okay, so we have all of the things that we can do, right, with the transform. We can do all that stuff. We can do the anchor point, position, scale, rotation, opacity. So all that stuff you can do. And then in text underneath here, it's going to give you some options as well. So you have like path options. You can mess with the individual paths. More options. You don't really need to worry about this so much. You can do some stuff with your fill and stroke, but there's other easier ways to do that, okay? All right, so the first thing that we're going to do is we're going to close this character tab. And we're going to open up the Effects and Presets tab over here. Okay, let me know if you can't find that. All right, so everybody has this tab open, Effects and Presets. Did I lose anyone? Anybody need me to back up a little bit? Okay, where do you want me to start?
Right now I'm having trouble finding the effects and presets.
Oh, okay, so it might just be your, are you on the default screen? So if you look up at the top, see where my mouse is? What screen are you on?
I clicked the arrow earlier and went to the effects tab that you
Okay.
talked about because I couldn't see, I was having some issues.
Okay, here, let me see if I can get you set up.
Oh, okay. So I actually think it might be here.
There you go. You know, if you ever can't find something like that I'm telling you to find, because sometimes things just get closed, you can always go up to Window. So let's say you couldn't find the effects and presets. Say it's just not there. You can go up to Window, and then here's your effects and presets. So when you click on it, so when I unclick on it, see I don't have that anymore. So when I go up to Window, effects and presets, it will add it back in. Okay? Because it will happen that like something gets closed. Okay, so the first thing that we're gonna do is we're just gonna grab like one fun effect and just kind of mess around with it. And then we're gonna grab the type effects and mess around with those, okay? I really believe that the best way to learn software is to just fuck around with it and play with it and have some fun. So that's what this tutorial is really gonna be. So, all right, we have, list might look a little wild and scary, but let's go into, let's say, distort. See where it says distort? Just go ahead and open that up. Okay, and let's grab Liquify. Okay, so can everybody see Liquify if you scroll down? And all you have to do is just drag it onto the layer or double click it. And then this is going to give you some options to liquify. Okay, so if I go into this effect here, move my face, you can see it in two ways. You can see the effects underneath your layer, or you can see them right here. Okay, so I'm on Liquify right now, and so what I can do here is I can kind of mess with my type. And that will put a keyframe underneath that Liquify effect. Okay, so then what we can do is we can add some keyframes. So I just kind of messed this up, made it weird. I'm going to go ahead and turn on the keyframes here. I'm I'm going to turn on I'm just going to turn all three of them on because I'm not totally sure what each one does. So it's created some keyframes for me, as you can see here. I've turned those on. And now I'm just going to go to, I don't know, about 5 seconds or so. And since I'm over here, I'm going to make a change. So you can change the distortion percentage to 0. So now I have an animation that goes from this super distorted weirdo type to kind of regular type. And if you want that to be faster, you can just move that keyframe up. We're cute, right? Look at that. All right, who needs help with that? Would you like me to just show you again? Okay, great. So let me just get rid of this. Okay, so we go into distort. There's a lot of fun stuff in distort, okay? So I'm going to head down here, and I'm going to grab Liquify. And all you got to do is double-click on it as long as you're clicked on the layer, or you can drag it onto the layer. Either one is fine. Okay, so the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to set these 3 keyframes, okay? So I have 3 keyframes. You can see these effects in this effects panel, which I think is easier, or you can see them underneath your layer as well. So I'm going to turn on these 3 keyframes, and that's going to set the way my text looks at 0, just to look regular. Then I'm going to go to, let's say, like, I don't know, 2 seconds, and I'm just going to kind of have some fun with this. Kind of change this up. All right, I'm just kind of painting on it and like dragging it different ways. So now when I run my animation, it's going to go from not distorted to distorted. And then if you wanted to, you can even add more distort. So I did that at 2 seconds. Maybe then at 4 seconds, I can distort it even more and like really mess it up. Okay, so now I have these 3 keyframes from 0 to kind of messed up, and then kind of messed up to more messed up. Yes?
So I clicked off of the distortion tool.
Okay.
And I did the first part. How do I get back to it?
Are you in, can you see this here?
Yes.
I'm not sure what you mean by back to it.
Like, so I switched to the arrow key. Like, I'm just trying to figure out how I can start distorting again.
Okay, let me come there in a second. What was your question? Did you have a question too?
Yes, how are you starting and stopping it?
Oh, spacebar. Sorry, y'all. I should have made that more clear. Yeah, spacebar. And let me see what your issue is here. And if you want, go ahead and just start messing around with some of those other distort options.
So, like, I'm doing this part.
Okay.
If I were to get back to the distort tool,
It might just be like off here. So yeah, I need to just see what your question was. Just go to like, I don't know, 50. Okay. Try to click this finger again. Yeah, there you go. That's it. So then like, so move your playhead. And now just throw the top out of it. Yeah. Okay, so here's where things get really weird, okay? So now what you can do is we've made one effect, all right? We've used one of the effects. You can use as many effects as you want. So let's say we want to, let's see, what do we want here? Let's say we want to mirror this. Okay, so see where it says mirror? And you can click any one of these that you like if you just want to play, all right? I'm going to go ahead and click mirror. Okay, and that's going to bring up another effect. So see I have this other effect here? And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to get this to mirror, oops, I'm on the hand tool, by changing the direction. Okay, so I'm going to put it at 90. Okay, so there's my mirror. So now not only do I have really messed up text, but I've really messed up mirrored text. Okay, and really, y'all, the way to learn these and to use them is to just grab them and see what they do and try some different keyframes. So for instance, like if I wanted to put some keyframes on this mirror one, like I have a reflection center, so I'll turn that on, and then I'll go ahead and I'll shift the reflection center. So that it kind of animates that way as well. Okay, so what I want y'all to do, maybe just for the next like 10 minutes, spend some time in the distort options. So, you know, for instance, we could try magnify, throw a magnify on there. Mess with the magnify option, so magnification's at 150, so I'm going to put it larger, and you can change like what type of magnification you want. You can make it a lot bigger. All right, so there's my magnification on top of all of that. And I'm literally just like, all I'm doing is I'm just adding the effect, and I'm just playing with the presets. Okay, so I want to give y'all just like 10 minutes. I'm going to come around and see how everybody's doing. I want to just give y'all a little time to just kind of like figure out how to do this. It's good if you stick in the distort, and then in color correction is good too. Like, so for instance, one that's fun in color correction is like tritone, which is at the bottom. So you can pretty much change the font color. You know, so you can change this to like 3 different colors if you wanted to. All right, so there's lots of ways to change colors. In transform and up under type, there's ways to change colors as well. So I just want you to kind of have fun with this and just like make something, just break the fuck out of it. Just make something that like is just super goopy, super weird. It doesn't have to be something that looks perfect or looks like what you're gonna be doing. I just want you to play right now, okay? And I'm gonna come around and see who needs help. Pause my little video here. So what we're going to do here is we're going to go to that effects panel again, effects and presets. And I'm just going to close everything up because otherwise it confuses me. And what I'm looking for is it's going to be the very first thing. Okay, it's the very first thing where my mouse is. It says animation presets. So go ahead and open that up. So go ahead and open that up. Okay. And then what we're looking for inside of there is we're looking for text. Okay, so you should see text in there. So go ahead and open up text. And these are going to be animation presets for working with your type. Okay, so we have a bunch of different options. So like animate in, animate out, blurs, curves and splines, expressions, fills and strokes, graphical, lights, mechanical, miscellaneous, paths, rotation, scale, all this kind of stuff, okay? So the way that you work with these is pretty much it's a combination of effects. You know how we were like combining effects and like making weird things? The nice people at After Effects have sort of done that for you already, and have made these presets for you, but you can still go in and edit them or add other things to them. So let's start with blurs. Okay, so I'm going to open up blurs, and let's do blur by word. So I'm just going to drag this onto here, and now when I play it, look at, we fancy. Okay, so it kind of automatically does that for you. And what's nice about this is that we can open this up and go to text. And here's the blur by word animator. Okay, so it has all of the things that it has done here. Okay, you can adjust it. Here's your keyframes. So you can adjust it by, let's say you want it to last longer. You can adjust it by moving those keyframes. All right. And again, you just got to open stuff up until you find the keyframe. All right, so I made it a little longer. Okay, and again, you can add multiple animators to this. I might just get rid of this one just to show y'all some other ones. Just gonna delete text. Oh no, that's not what I wanted. I want the text. I don't want the animator. Okay, so let's try a jiggly. Okay, and these already have the keyframes on them. It's all been done for you. So this is the jiggly option. And let's say you only wanted to jiggle for like, I don't know, 5 seconds, okay? This one, as you can see, it just continues on. So what you can do is you can open up that jiggly animator, okay, and find your keyframes. All right, so this one's done more programmatically. But there are ways that you can stop this from happening. So for instance, for this one, because it's written with code, for this one what you can do is Shift-Command-D will cut your layer. So you can cut your layer, and then maybe you just delete it on this other one. Okay? So Shift-Command-D is cut a layer. Okay, so we have jiggly, and then let's see like what happens when I add something else in. And again, the only ones that will work on this is the text. So let's do, we'll do some animate in. Let's do like we'll do a stretch each word. Oops. Cute, we're cute. So as you can see, if you combine these like more finished ones with the more sort of experimental ones that are not in the like animator templates, you can come up with something like really special. And again, as long as you stay in text, you can try any of these. I'm not sure if the 3D text ones will work, but that would be cool. Yes, I think you'd actually have to have 3D text, which I can show y'all how to work with in the days to come. Let's see, animate in, blurs, fills and strokes. Let's say what's happening with a chasing stroke. Ooh, look at us. Where'd that go? So fancy. Oh my God. Okay, so is this making sense to everyone? It's really not a complicated process. If you see something, you're just like, ooh, rotate hue. What the fuck is that about? Throw it on there and see what happens. So now it's just kind of rotating the hues of this animation. Yes, we love it. We love it. One thing you also might want to watch out for is the dragging onto the layer effect. Notice how this effect doesn't start until like over here, because it'll put the keyframes on at the point that you like drag it on, like wherever your playhead is. So it's probably a better idea to just double click it. Let's try the sliding color flicker. So when you double click on it, it'll just add it immediately to the 0 point. And then if they don't line up, you might just have to go and grab those keyframes and sort of like rearrange some things. Let's try, we love a wiggle stroke. Yes, please. Ooh, okay, this looks real fucked up. And I like it. Okay, okay, wiggle stroke. I see you. Okay, so your options really are endless. And there's ways, like right now it just seems like we're dumping things and we're like not trying to make anything super specific. But like I keep saying, that is the way to learn how to use this software. And then as we move on, we're going to be learning like how you can make more specific things. Like we'll be using, you know, different types of animators. We'll be using vector shapes, things like that. Okay, does that make sense? Yes.
How did you delete the animation you did that?
So what's weird? What is weird? What I think is weird about this is when you do the animation presets, they don't show up over here, as you notice. They only show up underneath. So you would just go underneath and you would just find the, so like let's say I don't want to do this like these base strokes, you can just delete it. But you'll have to go underneath and find it. Okay, any questions on the magic of After Effects? Does anyone feel like totally overwhelmed right now? What was your question?
Yeah, so when I was first putting in the text, what we were working on previously, it was fine high res. For some reason, it looks like it just dropped in quality significantly.
Oh, okay. So that might be because, so if you check it out here, so this is your size of your screen, right?
Mm-hmm.
If you want to zoom in, you can go to 200, you know. I usually like to work with fit. And then next to it, see where it says, what does yours say?
Quarter.
Yes, exactly. Okay, so sometimes you're working with like really heavy graphics and you want to just see if everything's working. You can turn things down to quarter. So then, yes, they will look pixelated, but it will render faster so that you can kind of see it in general.
Yeah.
Does that make sense? We're not working on anything wild right now, so we're going to put it on full. And if you see this green line means that this stuff is rendered. Sometimes you need to render stuff in real time. So if you're having a hard time rendering and it's like not playing back, usually what it'll do is it just keeps going back to 0. Go ahead and pull the resolution down, and that will help you out a lot. Okay? Okay, so that's it for After Effects for today.